morning, everyone. It's great to see you all here. Thank you for listening my answers to the questions given. My name is Ria Sandora. My friends call me only Ri or Ria sometimes. I'm a student of Universitas Tanjungpura, majoring in Management, International Class, Batch 2019. Today, I'm here to answer the questions given by my lecturer, Mr. Adi Mursalin. Firstly, I will answer the questions on Part A, which deal with the activities in Zoom meeting. There are 4 questions there. Next, I will answer the questions on Part B, which deal with the theories of organizational behavior. There are 15 questions there. And then I will watch 2 videos given and answer the questions that follow. Well, my dear friends, let me begin my answers, starting from Part A. The answer is yes. I'm always active in attending the lecture of Organizational Behavior or OB, and I have never absent. I'm always present every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. on time. I'm also engaged in the discussion handled by my friends. Every week, there is a group presenting a chapter, and I'm always active in answering or asking questions to the group presenting. This is proven from my activities during the discussion on Zoom meeting. In the first presentation by Group 17 and Group 5, from the Q&A session, I answered questions from Group 17 and then gave questions to Group 5. Then the following week was the presentation from Group 18, where I answered the questions at the end of the group presentation. And after that is Group 8. I am also active by answering 1 questions from Group 8. Next is Group 15. Just like before, I'm also active in Group 15 presentations by answering the questions that have been provided. Then the next was the presentation from Group 7, where I was also actively involved by asking questions to Group 7 after the presentation ended. Then last week, before midterm test, was closed by a presentation from Group 14, and I was also active by answering the questions given. In addition, I also answered questions from Mr. Adi regarding the relationship between organizational behavior materials and my major, which is finance. Therefore, it can be concluded that I am always active on Zoom meeting by asking or answering questions from the presenters and also from Sir Adi. From the first meeting to before the midterm test, there have been 7 chapters presented by 7 groups. The first group to start the presentation is Group 17 with the topic, What is Organizational Behavior? From Chapter 1. The presenters are Nur Pratista Andanitya Amara or Tata and Nurmalia Sari. Tata and Nurmalia presented Chapter 1 material really well so that I got to know more about what organizational behavior really is. Me and other friends were also able to answer questions in their Q&A presentation sessions really well because the delivery of the material was easy to understand. Then the second presentation is from Group 5 with the topic of Chapter 2, Diversity in Organizations. The presenters are Tiffany and Desi Eka Sanjaya. They both convey the materials very well. They summarize the material so well that I could easily understand the essence of diversity in organizations material through their presentation. After that is the presentation of Group 18 with Carlos and Franciscus Mandal Putra as the presenters discussed the topic of Chapter 3 regarding attitudes and job satisfaction. Just like other presenters before, Carlos and Mandal also delivered the material really well and complete. Next is the presentation from Group 8, which consists of Vanessa, Nita Dwi Savitri, and Yuni Venawati as the presenters. They presented Chapter 4 with the topic Emotions and Mood. Group 8 presented this material very well and was easy to understand by giving examples of emotions and moods, making it easier for me to distinguish between the two. And after that is Group 15, consisting of Salsabila Deva and Tasya Rabiatu Alfia, who presented Chapter 5 with the topic Personality and Values. Salsa and Tasya made a very nice presentation and interesting. The PowerPoint display and the way the material is delivered by them are very good so that it doesn't make me feel bored. Next, Group 7 with Arsha Wayuni, Revilia Teresa, and Putri Hermania as the presenters and presented Chapter 6 on Perception and Individual Decision Making. The explanation from Group 7 was very complete and the intonation during the presentation was also good, so I could understand their presentation very well. They are also on cam and polite in doing presentations. The last presentation before the midterm exam is from Group 14, which consists of Irfani Aulia Fadila and Sharif Nabil Akil Hud Asegaf. Irfani and Nabil presented Chapter 7 material on motivation concepts. Group 14 also delivered the material very well and complete. Even though there was a little internet disturbance for Nabil during his presentation, Irfani was able to handle it and then continue the presentation. They also show videos related to motivation concepts, so I think the overall presentation is very good and clear. From my friend's presentation, I learned many new and interesting things, especially those related to organizational behavior. From the first presentation, I learned about what organizational behavior is, and then in next presentations, I learned deeper about organizational behavior. I came to know that in an organization, there must be a lot of differences from Chapter 2, good attitude at work from Chapter 3, different between emotions and mood from Chapter 4, different personalities from one person to another from Chapter 5, and then how perception affects decision making from Chapter 6, and how motivation affects a person's performance from Chapter 7. I also learned how to present a good and interesting presentation from the group who have done the presentation. In addition, I also learned that although organizational behavior is a branch of knowledge in HRM, it turns out that OB material is also related to other fields such as finance and marketing. The book used in the OB course is entitled Organizational Behavior 15th Edition, written by Robin Stephen P. and Judge Timothy A. This book is provided by Mr. Adi Mursalin since the first class of OB started as a guide in learning OB materials. This book also consists of complete organizational behavior materials starting from the introduction to more in-depth materials. This book allows me to learn more and know more about organizational behavior and the elements in it. Okay, first I will start from managers' functions. Initially, in the early part of the 20th century, French industrialist Henri Fayol wrote that there are 5 managers' functions. First, planning, and then organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. However, today, we have condensed this to only 4 functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. First, planning. Because organizations exist to achieve goals, then a manager has to define those goals and the means for achieving them. The planning function encompasses defining an organization goals, establishing an overall strategy for achieving those goals, and then developing a comprehensive set of plans to integrate and coordinate activities. Evidence indicates that this function increases the most as managers move from lower level to mid-level management. Second, organizing. Managers are also responsible for designing an organization's structure. We call this function as organizing. It includes determining what tasks are to be done, who is to do them, how the tasks are to be grouped, who reports to whom, and where decisions are to be made. Third, leading. Every organization contains people, and it is management's job to direct and coordinate those people. This is the leading function. When managers motivate employees, direct their activities, select the most effective communication channels, or resolve conflicts among members, they are engaging in leading. To ensure things are going as they should, management must monitor the organization's performance and then compare it with previously set goals. If there are any significant deviations, it is management's job to get the organization back on track. This monitoring, comparing, and potential correcting is the controlling function. Then, now I will explain the manager's roles. There are three managers' roles. First, interpersonal roles. All managers are required to perform duties that are ceremonial and symbolic in nature. For instance, when the president of a college hands out diplomas at commencement, or a factory supervisor gives a group of high school students a tour of the plant, he or she is acting in a figurehead role. All managers also have a leadership role. This role includes hiring, training, motivating, and disciplining employees. The third role within the interpersonal grouping is the liaison role, or contacting others to provide the manager with information. The sales manager, who obtains information from the quality control manager in his or her own company, has an internal liaison relationship. But when that sales manager has contacts with other sales executives through a marketing trade association, he or she has an outside liaison relationship. Second is informational roles. All managers, to some degree, collect information from outside organizations and institutions, typically by scanning the news, like including the internet, and talking with other people to learn of changes in the public space and then what competitors may be planning and the like. Mintzberg called this the monitor role. So managers also act as a conduit to transmit information to organizational members. This is the disseminator role. In addition, managers perform a spokesperson role when they represent the organization to outsiders. And then the third is decisional roles. Mintzberg identified 4 roles that require making choices. In the entrepreneur role, managers initiate and oversee new projects that will improve their organization's performance. As disturbance handlers, managers take corrective action in response to unforeseen problems. As resource allocators, managers are responsible for allocating human, physical, and monetary resources. And finally, managers perform a negotiator role in which they discuss issues and bargain with other units to gain advantages for their own unit. Next is managers' skills. So skills are the competencies that managers need in order to achieve their goals. There are 3 skills that differentiate effective from ineffective managers. First is technical skills. So these skills encompass the ability to apply specialized knowledge or expertise. When we think of the skills that of professionals such as civil engineers or oral surgeons, we typically focus on the technical skills they have learned through extensive formal education. Of course, professionals don't have a monopoly on technical skills, and not all technical skills have to be learned in schools or other formal training programs. All jobs require some specialized expertise, and many people develop their technical skills on the job. Next is human skills. This is the ability to understand and communicate with and then motivate, also support other people, both individually and in groups. This defines human skills. Many people are technically proficient but poor listeners, unable to understand the needs of others, or weak at managing conflicts. Because managers get things done through other people, they must have good human skills. And then the last is conceptual skills. So managers must have the mental ability to analyze and diagnose complex situations. These tasks require conceptual skills. Decision making, for instance, requires managers to identify problems and then to develop alternative solutions to correct those problems, evaluate those alternative solutions, and select the best one. After they have selected a course of action, managers must be able to organize a plan of action and then execute it. The ability to integrate new ideas with existing processes and innovate on the job are also crucial conceptual skills for today's managers. One thing for sure, organizational behavior is an applied behavioral science built on contributions from a number of behavioral disciplines, mainly psychology and social psychology, sociology, and anthropology. My first explanation will be about psychology. So this discipline seeks to measure, explain, and sometimes change the behavior of humans and other animals. Those who have contributed and continue to add to the knowledge of OB are learning theories, personality theories, counseling psychologists, and most important, industrial and organizational psychologists. So early industrial or organizational psychologists studied the problems of fatigue, boredom, and other working conditions that could impede efficient work performance. More recently, their contributions have expanded to include learning, perception, personality, emotions, training, leadership effectiveness, needs and motivational forces, job satisfaction, decision-making processes, performance appraisals, attitude measurement, employee selection techniques, work design, and also job stress. The second discipline is social psychology. So generally, social psychology discipline considered a branch of psychology, blends concepts from both psychology and sociology to focus on people influence on one another. So one major study area is how to implement it and how to reduce the barriers to its acceptance. Social psychologists also contribute to measuring, understanding, and changing attitudes, identifying communication patterns, and building trust. Finally, they have made important contributions to our study of group behavior, power, and conflict. And then the third discipline is sociology. While psychology focuses on the individual, sociology studies people in relation to their social environment or culture. So sociologists have contributed to OB through their study of group behavior in organizations, particularly formal and complex organizations. Perhaps most important, sociologists have studied organizational culture, formal organization theory and structure, organizational technology, communications, power, and conflict. Then the last discipline is anthropology. This is the study of societies to learn about human beings and their activities. So anthropologists work on cultures and environments has helped us to understand differences in fundamental values, attitudes, and behavior between people in different countries and within different organizations. Much of our current understanding of organizational culture and then organizational environments and the differences among national cultures is the result of the work of anthropologists or those using their methods. So actually there is a lot of challenges faced by a company. However, every company can minimize it by using organizational behavior. The first opportunity is that OB allows manager responding to economic pressures. During difficult economic times, effective management is often at a premium. When times are bad and tough, managers are on the front line with employees who must be fired, who are asked to make do with less, and who worry about their futures. The difference between good and bad management can be the difference between profit and loss, or ultimately between survival and failure. Managing employees well when times are tough is just as hard as when times are good, but the OB approaches sometimes differ. In good times, OB understands how to reward, satisfy, and retain employees is at a premium. But in bad times, issues like stress, decision-making, and coping come to the fore. And then the second opportunity is responding to globalization. Organizations are no longer constrained by national borders right now. Currently, there are so many multinational companies in every country. For example, ExxonMobil is originated from US, but 75% of its revenues come from sales outside US. Therefore, we can see that the world has become a global village. In the process, the manager's job has changed too. First, increase foreign assignments. So managers will have to manage a workforce very different in needs, aspirations, and attitudes from those they are used to back home. Second, working with people from different cultures. So even in our country, we will find ourselves working with bosses, peers, and other employees born and raised in different cultures with us. Therefore, in order to work effectively with people from different cultures, we need to understand how their cultures, geography, and religion have shaped them and how to adapt our management style to their differences. The third, overseeing movement of jobs to countries with low-cost labor. In a global economy, jobs tend to flow where lower costs give businesses a comparative advantage, though labor groups, politicians, and local community leaders see the exporting of jobs as undermining the job market at home. So managers face the difficult task of balancing the interests of their organization with their responsibilities to the communities in which they operate. Next opportunity, managing workforce diversity. One of the most important challenges for organizations is adapting to people who are different, which is known as workforce diversity. Whereas globalization focuses on the differences among people from different countries, workforce diversity addresses differences among people within given countries. Workforce diversity acknowledges a workforce of women and men, many racial and ethnic groups, individuals with a variety of physical and psychological abilities, and people who differ in age and sexual orientation. Managing this diversity is a global concern. Fourth, improving customer service. So, organizational behavior can contribute to improving an organization's performance by showing managers how employee attitudes and behavior are associated with customer satisfaction. Many organizations have failed because its employees fail to please customers. Management needs to create a customer responsive culture. An OB can provide considerable guidance in helping managers create such cultures in which employees are friendly and courteous, accessible, knowledgeable, prompt in responding to customer, and then willing to do what's necessary to please the customers. Fifth opportunity, stimulating innovation and change. Today's successful organizations must foster innovation and master the art of change, or they will become candidates for extinction. Victory will only go to the organizations that maintain their flexibility, continually improve their quality, and beat their competition to the marketplace with a constant stream of innovative products and services. However, the challenge for managers is to stimulate their employees' creativity and tolerance for change. The field of organizational behavior provides a wealth of ideas and techniques to aid in realizing these goals. Next opportunity, coping with temporariness. Globalization, expanded capacity, and advances in technology have required organizations to be fast and flexible if they are to survive. The result is that most managers and employees today work in a climate best characterized as temporary. Today's managers and employees must learn to cope with temporariness, flexibility, spontaneity, and unpredictability. The study of organizational behavior, or OB, can help managers to better understand a work world of continual change, overcome resistance to change, and create an organizational culture that thrives on change. After that, seventh, working in network organizations. Network organizations allow people to communicate and work together even though they may be thousands of miles apart. The manager's job is different in a network organization. Motivating and leading people and making collaborative decisions online requires different techniques than when individuals are physically present in a single location. As more employees do their jobs by linking to others through networks, managers must develop new skills. And then OB, organizational behavior, can provide valuable insights to help with honing those skills. 8. Helping employees balance work-life conflicts. The typical employee in the 1960s or 1970s showed up at a specified workplace Monday through Friday and worked for clearly defined 8 or 9-hour chunks of time. That's no longer true for a large segment of today's workforce. Employees are increasingly complaining that the line between work and non-work time has become blurred, creating personal conflicts and stress. Organizations that don't help their people achieve work-life balance will find it increasingly difficult to attract and retain the most capable and motivated employees. But by using organizational behavior, or OB, the field of OB offers a number of suggestions to guide managers in designing workplaces and jobs that can help employees deal with work-life conflicts. The next opportunity, creating a positive work environment. Although competitive pressures on most organizations are stronger than ever, some organizations are trying to realize a competitive advantage by fostering a positive work environment. A real growth area in organizational behavior research is positive organizational scholarship, also called positive organizational behavior, which studies how organizations develop human strengths, foster vitality, and resilience, and also unlock potential. Although positive organizational scholarship doesn't deny the value of the negative, such as critical feedback, it does challenge researchers to look at OB through a new lens and pushes organizations to exploit employee strengths rather than do well on their limitations. Last but not least, improving ethical behavior. Organizational work characterized by cutbacks, expectations of increasing productivity, and tough competition. Therefore, it's not surprising many employees feel pressured to cut corners, break rules, and engage in other questionable practices. Increasingly, they face ethical dilemmas and ethical choices in which they are required to identify right or wrong conduct. Therefore, by using organizational behavior or OB, today's manager must create an ethically healthy climate for his or her employees where they can do their work productively with minimal ambiguity about what right and wrong behaviors are. Companies that promote a strong ethical mission encourage employees to behave with integrity and provide strong ethical leadership can influence employee decisions to behave ethically. As we know, we all are not all the same. We are different in age, sex, race and ethnicity, disability, tenure, religion, sexual orientation, intellectual abilities, physical abilities, and many more. Effective diversity management increases an organization's access to the widest possible pool of skills, abilities, and ideas. The question is how a manager can and should manage these differences. So there are at least 3 ways. First, attracting, selecting, developing, and retaining diverse employees. So one method of enhancing workforce diversity is to target recruiting messages to specific demographic groups underrepresented in the workforce. This means placing advertisements in publications geared toward specific demographic groups, recruiting at colleges, universities, and other institutions with significant numbers of underrepresented minorities, and forming partnerships with local associations. The selection process is one of the most important places to apply diversity efforts. Managers who hire need to value fairness and objectivity in selecting employees and focus on the productive potential of new recruits. Second, diversity in groups. When people work in groups, they need to establish a common way of looking at and accomplishing the major tasks. And also, they need to communicate with one another really often. So if they feel little sense of membership and cohesion in their groups, all these groups' attributes are likely to suffer. So managers need to form groups of individuals with different types of expertise and education because it is more effective than homogeneous groups. Similarly, a group made entirely of assertive people who want to be in charge, or a group whose members all prefer to follow the lead of others will be less effective than a group that mixes leaders and followers. And then third, effective diversity programs. So effective comprehensive workforce programs encouraging diversity have 3 distinct components. First, they teach managers about the legal framework for equal employment opportunity, and encourage fair treatment of all people regardless of their demographic characteristics. And then second, they teach managers how a diverse workforce will be better able to serve a diverse market of customers and clients. And then third, they foster personal development practices that bring out the skills and abilities inclusive of all workers, acknowledging how differences in a perspective can be a valuable way to improve performance for everyone. Therefore, diversity management must be an ongoing commitment that crosses all levels of the organization. Group management, recruiting, hiring, retention, and development practices can all be designed to leverage diversity for the organization's competitive advantage. From what I know, at its most basic, personality is the characteristic patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that make a person unique. So, personality embraces mood, attitudes, and opinions, and is most clearly expressed in interactions with other people. Therefore, it also affects someone's job performance, even how he or she reacts to situations on the job. Not every personality is suited for every job position, so it's important to recognize personality traits and pair employees with the duties that fit their personalities the best. This can lead to increased productivity and job satisfaction, helping an organization to function more and efficiently. This is because personality can be seen as the motor which drives behavior. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI, is the most widely used personality assessment instrument in the world. It is a 100-question personality test that asks people how they usually feel or act in particular situations. Respondents are classified as extroverted or introverted, E or I, sensing or intuitive, S or N, thinking or feeling, T or F, and judging or perceiving, J or P. These classifications together describe 16 personality types, identifying every person by one trait from each of the 4 pairs. For better understanding, let's take an example of INTJ, introverted, intuitive, thinking, judging. INTJs are visionaries with original minds and great drive. They are skeptical, critical, independent, determined, and often stubborn. One problem is that it forces a person into one type or another. For example, you are either introverted or extroverted. There is no in between. Though in reality, people can be both extroverted and introverted to some degree, right? So the best we can say is that the MBTI can be a valuable tool for increasing self-awareness and providing career guidance. But because results tend to be unrelated to job performance, managers probably shouldn't use it as a selection test for job candidates. From the personality test, I got type B with the score of 5. The theory describes people with type B personality by definition generally live at a lower stress level and typically work steadily, enjoying achievement but not becoming stressed when they are not achieved. When faced with competition, they do not mind losing and either enjoy the game or back down. They may be creative and enjoy exploring ideas and concepts. They are often reflective, thinking about the outer and inner worlds. Furthermore, type B personalities may have a poor sense of time schedule and can be predominantly right brain thinkers. Then I also asked my two friends, Nita Dwi Safitri and Govania Ernestin. Both Nita and Govania also got the result of type B, same as me. If I were their manager, I will try to adjust myself to their personality in order to make them feel comfortable working with me. But for Nita and Govania, because their personalities are the same with me, I think it is easier to talk and discuss with them, where I don't need much adjustment because we are the same. But for my other friends who have different type, as a manager, I would adjust to their personalities. Based on the theory, type A personality is characterized by a constant feeling of working against the clock and a strong sense of competitiveness. Individuals with type A personality generally experience a higher stress level, hate failure, and find it difficult to stop working even when they have achieved their goals. So we can describe type A individual as ambitious, rigidly organized, highly status conscious, can be sensitive, care for other people, truthful, impassioned, always try to help others, take on more than they can handle, want other people to get to the point, proactive, and obsessed with time management. People with type A personalities are often workaholics, push themselves with deadlines, and hate both delays and ambivalence. Therefore, people with type A personality are found to be at greater risk of experiencing cardiac health complications such as high blood pressure and heart disease. Meanwhile, type B personality is characterized by a relaxed, passionate, and easygoing nature. Individuals with type B personality work steadily, enjoying achievements, but don't tend to become stressed when goals are not achieved. People with type B personality tend to be more tolerant of others. They are more relaxed than type A individuals, more reflective, experience lower levels of anxiety, and display a higher level of imagination and creativity. As much as I know, people with a type D personality are more likely to be lonely and anxious, even though many of us can feel a variety of these things at times. People with type D personality experience these traits more frequently than the average person and more consistently over time. So people with this personality type are often worried, sad, and low in confidence. People with type D personality traits can feel lonely in their distress and become hesitant to want to let anyone into their emotional experience because they find it hard to reach out. However, type D personalities are usually very organized. Being around a messy environment or disorganization will bother them. They are also good at playing a very supportive role with others and are normally very caring, thoughtful, and compassionate. They are patient, tend to be good listeners, and will persevere when all others have given up. Emotions are intense feelings directed at someone or something. Mood are less intense feelings than emotions and often, although not always, arise without a specific event acting as a stimulus. For example, someone makes you angry. You will feel the emotion of angry, but that intense feeling probably comes and goes fairly quickly, maybe even in a matter of seconds. However, when you are in a bad mood, you can feel bad for several hours, longer than emotions. So the difference is the matter of time. Emotions is very brief in duration, like seconds or minutes, while mood lasts longer, like hours or even days. In addition, we can also differ emotions from mood using other things like first, emotions caused by specific event, while mood is often general and unclear. Second, emotions is specific and numerous in nature. There are many specific emotions such as anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disgust, and surprise. Meanwhile, mood is more general with two main dimensions, positive effect and negative effect. And then third, emotions is usually accompanied by distinct facial expressions, while mood is generally not indicated by distinct expressions. And then the fourth, for emotions, action oriented in nature, while for mood, cognitive in nature. So, after knowing the meaning of mood and emotions, the next question is how do they influence someone's job performance, right? So, a model called affective events theory or AET demonstrates that employees react emotionally to things that happen to them at work, and this reaction influences their job performance. The work environment includes everything surrounding the job, the variety of tasks and the degree of autonomy, job demands and requirements for expressing emotional labor. This environment creates work events that can be hazardous, uplifting events, or both. These work events trigger positive or negative emotional reactions to which employees' personalities and moods predispose them to respond with greater or lesser intensity. People who score low on emotional stability are more likely to react strongly to negative events, and our emotional response to a given event can change depending on mood. Meanwhile, for people who score high on emotional stability are more likely to be stable to negative events because they can control themselves. So there are four theories of employee motivation formulated during the 1950s, although now of questionable validity. These four represent a foundation on which they have grown, and practicing managers still use them and their terminology. First, we will start from the most popular one, Hierarchy of Needs theory by Abraham Maslow. So Abraham Maslow hypothesized that within every human being there exists a hierarchy of 5 needs. First, psychological need includes hunger, thirst, shelter, sex, and other bodily needs. Second, safety and security and protection from physical and emotional harm. Third, social affection, belongingness, acceptance, and friendship. Four, esteem, internal factors such as self-respect, autonomy, and achievement, and also external factors such as status recognition and attention. Fifth, self-actualization, drive to become what we are capable of becoming, includes like growth, achieving our potential, and self-fulfillment. So if we want to motivate someone or employees according to Maslow, we need to understand what level of the hierarchy that person is currently on and focus on satisfying needs at or above that level. Second theory, Theory X and Y by Douglas McGregor. It is the view of human beings that one basically negative labeled as Theory X and the other basically positive labeled as Theory Y. Under Theory X, managers believe that employees inherently dislike work and must therefore be directed or even coerced into performing it. Under Theory Y, in contrast, managers assume that employees can view work as being as natural as rest or play, and therefore the average person can learn to accept and even seek responsibility. Third, two-factor theory by Frederick Herzberg. This theory is also called motivation hygiene theory. According to Herzberg, the factors that lead to job satisfaction are separated and distinct from those that lead to job dissatisfaction. Therefore, managers who seek to eliminate factors that can create job dissatisfaction may bring about peace, but not necessarily motivation. They will be placating rather than motivating their workers. And as a result, Herzberg characterized conditions such as quality of supervision, pay, company policies, physical working conditions, relationships with others, and job security as hygiene factors. When they are adequate, people will not be dissatisfied, neither will they be satisfied. So if we want to motivate people on their jobs using this theory, Herzberg suggested that emphasizing factors associated with the work itself or with outcomes directly derived from it, such as promotional opportunities, personal growth opportunities, recognition and responsibility, and also achievement. These are the characteristics people find intrinsically rewarding. The last theory, McClelland's theory of needs by David McClelland and his associates. This theory looks at three needs. First, need for achievement. It is the drive to excel, to achieve in relationship to a set of standards. And then need for power is the need to make others behave in a way they will not have otherwise. And the need for affiliation is the desire for friendly and close interpersonal relationships. And among those early theories of motivation mentioned before, McClelland's theory has had the best research support. Unfortunately, it has less practical effect than the others. Okay, start from equity theory, or can also be called organizational justice. From what I read, equity theorists stated that employees look for equity in an organization. Historically, equity theory focused on distributive justice. The employees perceived fairness of the amount rewards among individuals and who received them. But organizational justice draws a bigger picture. Employees perceive their organizations as just when they believe rewards and the way they are distributed are fair. In other words, fairness or equity can be subjective. What one person sees as unfair, another may see as perfectly appropriate. In general, people see allocations of procedure favoring themselves as fair. Beyond perceptions of fairness, the other key element of organizational justice is the view that justice is multidimensional. How much we get paid relative to what we think we should be paid, or distributive justice, is obviously important. If employees feel they have been treated unjustly, having opportunities to express their frustration has been shown to reduce their desire for retribution. Based on equity theory, employees who perceive inequity will make one of 6 choices. First, change inputs, and then change outcomes, distort perceptions of self, and then distort perception of others, choose a different referent, or leave the field or quit the job. Then reinforcement theory. So this theory takes a behavioristic view, arguing reinforcement conditions behavior. This theory ignores the inner state of the individual and concentrates solely on what happens when he or she takes some action. Operant conditioning theory, probably the most relevant component of reinforcement theory for management, argues that people learn to behave to get something they want or to avoid something they don't want. Unlike reflective or unlearned behavior, operant behavior is influenced by the reinforcement or lack of reinforcement brought about by its consequences. Therefore, reinforcement strengthens a behavior and increases the likelihood it will be repeated. And then the extension of operant conditioning is social learning theory, which assumes that behavior is a function of consequences and acknowledges the effects of observational learning and perception. After that, self-efficacy theory. This theory, also known as social cognitive theory or social learning theory, refers to an individual's belief that he or she is capable of performing a task. The higher your self-efficacy, the more confidence you have in your ability to succeed. So, in difficult situations, people with low self-efficacy are more likely to lessen their effort or give up altogether, while those with high self-efficacy will try harder to master the challenge. Self-efficacy can create a positive spiral in which those with high efficacy become more engaged in their tasks and then in turn increase performance, which increases efficacy further. The last, goal-setting theory. Based on this theory, we believe that goals tell an employee what needs to be done and how much effort is needed. Evidence strongly suggests that specific goals increase performance, that difficult goals, when accepted, result in higher performance than do easy goals, and that feedback leads to higher performance than does non-feedback. Specific goals produce a higher level of output than the generalized goal because specificity itself seems to act as an internal stimulus. This theory stated that people are motivated by difficult goals. Why? First, challenging goals get our attention and thus tend to help us focus. Second, difficult goals energize us because we have to work harder in order to attain them. In motivating students to learn English, it is not only leading them to English, but also making them thirsty for knowledge and understanding of English. As a language learning, English learning has its own characteristics that need the learners remember more, practice more, and then communicate more than other subjects. So students' motivation is critical for English learning. English teachers are organizers or leaders in teaching. They have a responsibility to increase their students' inclination to perform willingly and actively on English learning. And there are several ways to motivate students in English language learning based on my opinion. First, involving new and effective techniques. As some techniques have been employed in teaching, there are more choices and more methods for teachers to stimulate students' intrinsic motivation, such as CALL or CALL, computer assisted language learning, multimedia using internet and educational software. These methods are innovative, interesting, practical, and effective with colorful pictures, vivid voices, plentiful information, and effective interaction that arouse students' curiosity and interest, and as well as promote their intrinsic motivation. With intrinsic motivation, many students can start self-study in schools or at homes to effectively improve their listening, reading, and writing through this method. Second, using various and interesting activities. Using various and interesting activities, it is effective and functional to apply various and interesting activities with moderate challenge to attract students to arouse their curiosity in English learning in view of intrinsic motivation, arousal, and the characteristic of language learning. For example, like using games. And then the third, high expectation and using reward appropriately. So these are effective methods as outward power to stimulate students in English learning on the basis of extrinsic motivation theory. Sometimes our expectations about people cause us to treat them in ways that make them respond just as we expected they would. Fourth, create a relaxed and positive learning climate. Climate is important because it creates an environment that encourages both achievement and motivation. A relaxed and positive learning climate should be providing for students learning English. In a friendly atmosphere, students can feel secure and their sense of understanding and challenge as well as learning motivation can be promoted. In English learning, students need a great deal of practice to speak in class, thus implementing some rules to ensure them make sufficient use of the practice time and at the same time to make them feel safe and comfortable and are away from criticism and laughing by making mistakes. Fifth, cooperative activities. This method is at optimal level to keep students feel safe and can stimulate their arousal. Thus, more and more teachers use cooperative activities in English teaching rather than competition, which is also relatively effective. And nonetheless, providing opportunities for students to experience success. So, the most important use of learning English is to communicate with people by using the target language. The more ways we can give students to use English, have fun with English, and experience success in English learning, the more likely they are to keep students motivated and successful based on the theory of needs and beliefs. Of course, I got a lot of new knowledge, especially related to organizational behavior course. From studying 7 chapters of organizational behavior, made me understand what organizational behavior is, the differences that exist in an organization, how attitudes affect job satisfaction, the difference between mood and emotions, the diversity of personality types, how perceptions affect someone's decision making, and how to motivate employees. The 7 chapters taught me that small problems may seem simple and are often overlooked, such as unmotivated employees. It may seem simple, but after studying 7 chapters in this OB book, I came to know that it is not as simple as I thought. If this small thing continues, it can harm the organization as a whole. The speaker in the video explains about the materials of Chapter 4 regarding emotions and mood. He first explained about how to differentiate between emotions and mood, precisely about the myth of rationality. He stated that once upon a time, managers worked to make an emotional-free zone in order to have greater productivity. But now we know that emotions cannot be separated from workplace because emotions are part of who we are. Then the speaker also mentioned the 6 essentially universal emotions, which are anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disgust, and surprise. Actually, the rational part of our brain comes from the neocortex, but our emotions are controlled by limbic systems. In making decisions, emotions and thinking work in tandem. There are several sources of emotions and moods, such as personality, time of the day of the week, some says weather, stress, sleep, age, gender differences, where women tend to feel emotions more intensely than do men. Emotional labor also has impacts on employees. So emotional labor is an employee's expression of organizationally desired emotions during interpersonal transactions at work. Meanwhile, there are two types of emotions. First is felt. Felt is the individual's actual emotions, and then second is displayed, which is required for appropriate emotions. For displayed emotion, it consists of surface and deep acting. Surface acting is hiding one's inner in response to display rules, while deep acting is trying to modify one's true inner feelings based on display rules. Besides that, the speaker also explained about emotional intelligence, which is a person's ability to perceive emotions in the self and others, understand the meaning of these emotions, and regulate one's emotions. However, emotional intelligence is still controversial and not wholly accepted because researchers did not agree on the definitions and it cannot be measured. The contents in the video also discussed about several things managers can do to influence moods. First is being in a good mood oneself can result in more positivity and better cooperation. And second, selecting positive team members. Based on the video, it is said that personality tests are not truly accurate. Although the personality test, for example, MBTI test, is neatly organized and binary manner, easy to comprehend, easy to explain, and we are able to readily identify with one of 16 tribes, still it is not 100% accurate. Just like tarot cards and palm reading, personality tests are being generic. From the test result description, we can certainly identify with parts of it, but it's not a truly accurate and comprehensive depiction of who we really are. Based on scientists' look, two primary elements come to mind: validity and reliability. Validity is a measure of how well a test measures what it claims to measure, while reliability is a measure of whether the test reliably indicates accurate results, meaning we will get the same results if we took the test more than once. Unfortunately, the MBTI test doesn't meet the reliability requirements, where there is research that proves that there are differences in the results obtained after doing the MBTI test twice, with a distance of only 5 weeks. Other studies also found the same similar results, ranging from 24 to 61% of people receiving different results when taking the test multiple times. However, there is Big 5 test, which is believed to have a more acceptable level of validity and reproducibility, even though it is not perfect. So from here, we can conclude that there is no personality test that fully accurate, and actually they are far from perfect. People sometimes expect personality tests to tell them some hidden secrets to their character, but the truth is that a personality test can only tell us what we tell it. Accuracy with the test is entirely based on how honest and self-reflective we are with our answers. Well, my friends, that's all my answers, and I hope that you can understand well all of my answers. Please give comments below and don't forget to subscribe. So, thank you everyone and have a great day. Bye!